Welcome back to the deep dive. I had a bit of a moment yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
I was standing in the middle of this massive grocery store just staring at the coffee aisle.
Mm,
There were bags from Colombia, Ethiopia, Sumatra, decaf, whole bean, ground. And then I looked over and saw avocados from Mexico and, sourdough baked 5 miles away.
right.
And it hit me. I take this completely and utterly for granted. I just assume the shelf will be full.
It is wild when you actually stop and look at it. It looks like magic.
It does.
But it's actually the result of this massive, globally coordinated machine running in the background that we rarely even talk about.
Exactly. And that is what we are digging into today. We have a stack of notes here on something called the mechanics of the iron law of supply.
Uh-huh.
Now, I have to be honest with you. When I first saw the title of the source material you brought, I thought, okay, are we doing a physics lecture?
It does sound a bit heavy, doesn't it?
Is this about metallurgy? Are we building bridges?
The iron law. It sounds so rigid, like something you can't bend.
It sounds like I need a hard hat. But looking through the research, this isn't really about steel beams or factory blueprints. It's strangely psychological.
Mm.
It feels less like an engineering manual and more like a study on human motivation.
That is the perfect way to frame it. The texts we're looking at today, specifically these excerpts on the iron law of production, are, technically economics, yes.
Yeah.
But they read like behavioral psychology. We are essentially asking, why do things appear on shelves? Why do human beings bother to wake up at 4 a.m. to bake bread or build cars or write code?
Right, because as a consumer, I just assume the stuff is there. I walk into a store, I want a coffee maker, I buy a coffee maker. I don't think about the chain of events that put it there.
Right.
But this deep dive is basically asking, is it magic?
Uh-huh.
Or is there a specific set of rules,
Yeah.
a mechanism that forces that coffee maker to appear?
And the spoiler alert is, it's not magic. It is a very specific mechanism. And the core question we're trying to answer today is this. If you want more of something in the world, whether it's coffee makers, electric cars, or sourdough bread, what actually makes that happen?
Yeah.
Is it just wishing for it? Or is there a lever you have to pull?
And according to these notes, that lever is mathematical, but it's pulled by human emotion. So let's jump into the first section here. The source introduces this concept of the iron law with a literal equation.
It does. It starts with the fundamental relationship. In the text, it's written as P implies QS.
Okay, let's unpack this immediately because we promised no jargon.
Right.
P implies QS.
Yeah.
What are we looking at?
It's the shorthand for the law of supply. Q stands for price. QS stands for quantity supplied.
Right.
The law states there is a direct, unbreakable relationship between them. As the P goes up, the quantity that producers are willing to supply the Qs also goes up.
So price goes up, we get more stuff. Price goes down, we get less stuff.
In a nutshell, yes. But the fascinating part, and what the source material really drills into, is why. Because on the surface, that might seem counterintuitive to a regular person. We tend to think price is just a number on a sticker.
Right, because this introduces the two characters that the source uses to explain this tension. We have Annie and we have Sean.
Right, Annie and Sean. This is a great way to visualize the conflict.
So let's look at Annie first. I relate to Annie. The text paints her as the archetypal consumer.
Mm-hmm.
Her motivation is pretty simple, and we all share it.
Hmm?
She wants to save money. If she sees a high price, she's unhappy. She feels the pain of paying.
Correct. For Annie, price is a cost. It's a barrier. It's the obstacle standing between her and the thing she wants.
So she wants that number to be low.
As close to zero as possible. If the price is low, Annie is happy.
But then you have Sean. Sean is the producer. And the source emphasizes that Sean has a completely different operating system.
Completely.
He isn't trying to save money in the transaction. He is trying to build a life. He is trying to cover his costs and hopefully, make a profit.
So for Sean, the price isn't a barrier, it's the reward. And this is where the iron law kicks in. The text explains that higher prices, they just make more types of activity profitable. When the price is low, Sean is looking at his spreadsheet and
He's seeing red.
he's seeing red, exactly. He literally can't do much because the math just doesn't work.
I want to drill down on that because the notes use a great example of a custom table maker. Let's say Sean builds tables.
Okay.
If the market price for a table is $50, but it costs him $45 in wood and 3 hours of labor,
He's not doing it. He is losing money every single time he picks up a hammer.
he's on the couch.
At $50, Sean is on the couch. The supply is zero.
But if the price shoots up to $500,
Suddenly, the math changes completely. That activity is now profitable. The green lights, as the source calls them, start turning on. Sean gets off the couch, buys the wood, and starts building.
I like that image of the green light. So the price tag isn't just a number to annoy Annie.
Not at all.
It's a permission slip for Sean to even exist.
That's the crucial shift in perspective. We're so used to thinking like Annie. But to understand supply, you have to think like Sean.
Right.
The source makes it clear. Sean is only there because the price allows him to be.
This leads perfectly into the second big theme from the text, which is this idea of price as a signal. You mentioned green lights a second ago, and the source actually uses that specific terminology.
It does. It describes the signaling function of price. This is one of the most powerful ideas in economics.
Wow.
A price isn't just a transfer of money. It is a coded message from society to Sean.
Okay, decode the message for me. If the price of something skyrockets, let's say electric cars or organic avocados suddenly double in price, what is that telling Sean?
The message is, society needs this good so badly we are willing to pay. It's a distress flare.
A flare. I like that.
It tells Sean, stop doing whatever else you're doing, stop making gas cars, stop growing corn, and bring your resources here.
So it's directing traffic. It tells him where to put his time, his labor, his capital.
Exactly. Without that signal, Sean is flying blind. He doesn't know if society needs more tables or more chairs. He doesn't have a crystal ball.
No.
The price tells him where the need is greatest. But there's another layer to this signal that the text highlights, which I think is really cool.
What's that?
It's about the threshold of entry.
Yes. I saw that in the notes. The activation of entrepreneurs. That sounds like something out of a sci-fi movie.
It's a great concept. Imagine there isn't just one Sean. Imagine there are 10 different Seans out there standing on the sidelines.
Okay. So they all have different skills and resources.
Right. Some are very efficient. Maybe one, Sean owns his own forest, so his wood is cheap. Others are not efficient. They have to buy wood at retail prices. Some are fast, some are slow.
So they all have different costs to make that same table.
Exactly. At a low price, let's say $100, maybe only the super efficient Sean can afford to make the table and still eat. For the other 9,
It's a red light.
it's a red light, it's a loss, they stay on the bench.
But as the price rises,
As the price rises to 200, then 300, it crosses a threshold for the next Sean and then the next one. It suddenly becomes profitable for people with higher and higher costs to enter the market. The rising price activates them.
that makes so much sense. So when we see a price spike, we usually complain. That's our inner Annie screaming ripoff.
Of course.
But what's actually happening is the market is trying to recruit more Seans. It's trying to pull more people off the bench and into the game.
Exactly. It's a recruitment tool. And if you cap that price artificially, if you force the price to stay low to help Annie, you are essentially keeping those other Seans on the bench.
You're turning off the signal.
You are turning off the signal that tells them to come help.
And then we wonder why the shelves are empty.
Precisely. The price signal is the coordination mechanism.
Yeah.
Without it, resources just don't know where to go.
So we've established that the price gets Sean into the game. It's the invitation. But once he's there, what keeps him working? This brings us to what I think is the most stressful part of the source material. The text calls it residual claimant logic.
Yes. The residual claimant. This is where things get real for Sean.
The notes mention less than #9 about a washing machine owner, but let's just stick with Sean as our shop owner. The source paints a pretty terrifying picture of his financial life.
It does.
It really breaks down the waterfall of money.
It does. Most people think business owners just rake in cash. They see the revenue and assume it's profit. But the source details the hierarchy of payments. Sean is responsible for all the guaranteed payouts.
Right. So let's trace a dollar. Sean sells a table. Who gets the money first?
First, the landlord. Sean has to pay rent on his workshop. The landlord gets paid whether Sean sells a table or not. That is a fixed obligation.
Okay. Who's next?
The suppliers, the guy who sold him the wood and the screws, they need to be paid immediately. And then the staff. If Sean has employees, they have a legal right to their wages.
Right.
They get paid for their time, regardless of whether the business made a profit that day.
So everyone else has a contract.
Yeah.
They have a guarantee.
A guarantee. And he has to pay all of them before he pays himself.
That's the residual part, right? He only gets the residue.
Exactly. The residue, the leftovers. Sean is the residual claimant. He claims only what is left over after every other obligation has been met.
Talk about pressure. If there's no residue, Sean doesn't eat.
He doesn't eat. In fact, if the residue is negative, he has to pay out of his own pocket his savings just to keep the lights on. He pays for the privilege of working.
So Connecting this back to the iron law of supply,
Hmm.
how does the price affect this psychological state? Because this sounds like an anxiety disorder waiting to happen.
It is. And the price is the only medication for it. Think about the leverage.
Okay.
If the price of the product goes up, that increase doesn't go to the landlord. His rent is fixed. It doesn't go to the staff usually because their wages are fixed in the short term.
So the price increase goes straight to the bottom line. It goes to the residue.
Exactly. Since the costs are fixed, a higher price expands that leftover margin significantly. A 10% increase in the price of the table might mean a 50 or even 100% increase in Sean's actual take-home pay.
So a small movement in price creates a massive movement in his incentive.
Yes. And because Sean lives off that residual, the text notes that this creates a massive behavioral change. It's a powerful stimulus.
The source lists some specific behaviors here. It says this drives him to work more efficiently, work longer hours, and improve quality.
It's purely incentive-driven. If Sean knows that every extra hour he puts in is directly increasing that fat residue, he's going to burn the midnight oil.
Sure.
He's going to check every screw. He's going to make sure that customer service is perfect because he's capturing the value of that effort.
Whereas if the price is low and the residue is tiny,
If the residue is tiny, if he's making $2 an hour after all that stress, why bother? Why take the risk? Why stress yourself out for pennies?
right.
He'll just close up shop and go get a job where he's not the residual claimant.
It's funny because we usually think of the business owner as the bad guy, right? The greedy capitalist. But this frame makes Sean look like the most anxious person in the room. He's the last one to get paid.
He is. And that anxiety is what drives the market. The possibility of a healthy residual is the only thing that justifies the stress of being the claimant.
So let's recap. We've got Sean motivated. He's seeing the green light. He's chasing that residue. Now, I want to ask the obvious question.
Okay.
If the price creates this green light, why doesn't Sean just make 1,000,000 tables
Yeah.
immediately? Why is supply hard?
This is the final piece of the puzzle. The source calls this costs and scaling. And this is where the physics of the real world come crashing back in.
Right. Because in my head, or maybe in a video game, if I'm Sean and the price is high, I just push the make more button. I just duplicate the tables.
If only it were that simple. The text introduces the concept of diminishing returns and the increasing cost of production. Basically, producing more usually creates new problems that are increasingly expensive to solve.
What kind of problems? Give me the gritty details.
Well, let's say Sean is already working 40 hours a week and his shop is running at full capacity. Every saw is spinning. To make more tables, what does he have to do?
He can't clone himself. I guess he has to hire more people or make his current guys work longer.
Right. And what does the text say about that? Paying workers overtime?
Overtime is expensive. It's time and a half.
Exactly. So think about the math. The 100th table he made cost him standard wages. But the 101st table, he has to pay 150% of the labor cost to get that built.
So the cost of production isn't flat. It goes up the more you try to squeeze out of the factory.
Correct. The marginal cost rises. The source also mentions urgent delivery of raw materials. This is a huge one in logistics.
Oh, right. If you need more wood now because demand is high, you can't wait for the slow, cheap shipping.
No. You have to pay for the rush air freight. You have to outbid other buyers to get the lumber today instead of next month.
So scaling up isn't free. In fact, it becomes increasingly expensive the more you try to push the system. It's like trying to run a car in the red line. You burn more fuel.
That's the key. This is why the supply curve slopes upward. The text explains that Sean cannot afford to pay overtime or rush shipping if the selling price stays low.
Oh, I see. If the price is stuck at $50 and it costs $60 to make a table on overtime, he just won't make it.
He would lose money on every extra table, so he stops. Supply gets stuck at the current level.
Right.
He produces the easy tables, but he refuses to produce the hard ones.
But if the price goes up to $100,
Then he can afford the overtime. He can afford the rush shipping. He can afford to hire a second shift or rent a bigger warehouse. The high price justifies the pain and the cost of expanding production.
that is such a crucial distinction. We tend to think that when prices go up, that extra money is just profit for Sean to swim in like Scrooge McDuck.
Right. We think it's just padding his bank account.
But what you're saying is that the higher price is literally the fuel that pays for the more expensive production methods. It's the only way to pay for the overtime.
Yes. That is the mechanism. The only thing that allows supply to expand is a price high enough to cover the increased costs of that expansion.
Wow.
Without the price increase, the physics of the business just don't allow for more output.
This really ties it all together. We started with this dry equation, P up, Q up, and we've ended up talking about overtime pay, rush shipping, and anxiety.
It's all connected. The math is just a description of these very human constraints.
So let's zoom out and synthesize this for the listener. We've gone on a journey from the abstract iron law to the reality of Sean's shop floor.
We've seen that supply isn't accidental. It's not just about wishing for things to appear. It is a response to incentives.
And the main incentive is the price.
The price is the fuel. It's the green light signal that tells resources where to go. It's the reward that motivates the residual claimant to take risks. And it's the only mechanism that allows the producer to overcome the friction of rising costs.
It really changes how you look at a price tag. I usually look at a price tag and think, that hurts my wallet. That's my inner Annie talking.
We all have an inner Annie. And she matters. We want things to be affordable. But this source challenges us to listen to our inner Sean, too.
And that leads us to the provocative thought for the day. Based on this residual claimant logic and everything we've discussed, what should we be asking ourselves?
The thought is this. We often try to suppress prices. We pass laws, we use social pressure, or we complain to keep prices down because we want to help Annie.
Right.
That is a noble goal. No one wants things to be expensive.
But, and here comes the but.
But if we artificially suppress the price, do we accidentally starve Sean of the signal he needs? If we turn the light red when it should be green, does Sean just go home?
If we take away the residue, does the washing machine owner stop fixing the machines?
Exactly. If the signal is cut, the supply never arrives. We might save money on the price tag, but we pay for it with empty shelves. It's worth thinking about whether our attempts to help the consumer might sometimes actually hurt them by breaking the mechanic that brings the goods to the store in the first place.
That is definitely something to chew on next time you see a price that makes you cringe. Is it just a cost? Or is it a communication?
It's definitely a communication.
Well, on that note, we will leave you to decode the signals in your own grocery aisle. Thanks for unpacking the iron law with us. See you in the next deep dive.